This video is the Saffron teddy bear nose. So the Saffron teddy bear nose is woven. I need to just move that out of the way. With 2 strands of warp strand held together. You set your loom up to 3 inches tall, and there will be 4 sets of warp strands. So the setup for the nose is a little bit different than for other weaving of the bear parts. So I'm going to start with 2 strands held together at the right hand side, and I weave over under across the lower side of the loom, because what I want to do is I want to lock these strands in without using a slip knot. So I go across to about the middle, and then I go up and down from one slot to the next, and up and down again. Now I'm using 1 strand of yarn from the outside of the ball and 1 strand from the inside. So I am just frantically here flapping and flailing and trying to make sure that I cut the right strand off, but you know what? I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm just going to, when you're doing it, cut off the outside strand of the yarn from the outside of the ball and not this one, because this one is better to weave from. So now I'm going to take the strand from the outside of the ball and weave it across to the edge of the loom, and that will lock the outside strand. So there. And I'm just going to weave with 1 strand of yarn from the center of the ball. And so I go under, over, and I'm not using a traveling strand. I'm going to use the chained technique. Oh, I forgot to insert a shed stick. I'll just use this needle as my shed stick. So there. And so I've got 1 set of warp strands now will automatically be woven for me. So I just slide my weaving hook along the shed stick, and then I fold my yarn from the ball over to make a loop, catch it with my hook, bring it through, and I'm going to hold my loop at the edge of the weaving. And because what I want to do is I want this loop to be just not too tight, not too loose. And so I have eased the strands through. I keep that loop on the hook, and now I weave under the loops I went, under the strands I went over and yeah, so under the ones I went over the ones I went under in the previous row, and I just keep weaving up the warp strands, and don't pull that too tightly. You can adjust it, and I bring my shed stick down closer, which makes that row instantly picked up, and I just will continue weaving up the warp strands to the very top of the loom. So what I'm going to do now is I'll turn the camera off, and I will keep weaving until I'm at the top of the loom, and I'll come back to you when the nose section is up at the top of the loom, and then I'll show you the nifty way of doing some pulled warp strand shaping for the nose. So here's where did I put that bear? So here's how that bear will look from the, try and get him in focus from the side, and there he is. What I've done with this bear, easy to see, is I have woven him or her with the snout being a different shade than the head. You can do the snout the same color if you prefer. Okay, I'm going to turn off now and weave to the top. I have woven to the top of the warp strands. I'm going to pull out the shed stick now and weave a couple more rows just to make the weaving of the nose as dense as possible. And so that's one last row. And now what I'm going to do is take and snip the yarn off, and that's the weft. So I'm going to weave my hook through one last time and fold the weft over the hook, pull it through, and I'm going to this time pull the weft strand through the last loop that's on the weaving hook, the crochet hook. Now I pop it off, and at the bottom I will unweave I'll just pull those strands on either side off, and now I'm going to gather up this is the center of the nose. I'm going to just pull on the strand. It's a single strand that I cut off when I was going from warping with 2 to weaving with 1 strand. And I'm going to take my craft needle here, thread the strand through, and I have an extra loop that is because it went around the peg. So I'm going to take and twist it like that to shorten it up and gather it in. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'll pick up the extra bit of loop that's there on the other side, and I'm going to go through, whoops, hello there. I'm going to take my needle through the loops at the center one more time, just to finish gathering those up. It's not, wow, I'm not sure why it's not cooperating, but sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So I'll just keep working on it until I get these, because I want those strands at the middle of the nose to be all nicely and securely stitched together, gathered up. And I'm going to twist that last bit over just to make sure everything lies quite nicely. And now the snout, the nose is waiting to be secured to the face. Don't sew those short edges together. It's the semicircle that gets, or sort of arch shape, gets stitched to the face of the bear. Now the teddy bear pattern itself is not in my book, Innovative Weaving on the Frame Loom, but the techniques that I use to weave the teddy bears are in there. So if you're kind of puzzled about weaving with the chain stitch up the edge, that's in the book. And so the book is a good and useful resource. Okay, so that's the nose, and I'll show you how to put the nose onto the face after we've woven the head. So there will be a separate video for assembling the head. Well, I'll put it all together with weave the head, assemble the head will all be one video. So I'll edit that all together.